We go from one legend to yet another legend as we welcome in a good friend of the program, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. I would go out on a limb and suggest that the next guest, second only to Craig Conroy in terms of interviews that I have performed in my career here in Calgary, and he's always been a favorite, and I'm buying him some time because apparently he screwed something up. Former first-round pick of the Calgary Flames, former star of the Calgary Hitmen, and just one of the all-round good dudes. And you know what, Calgary, you're welcome, because I'm pretty sure I'm the guy that got him going on this side. You know him, you love him from everywhere. Brent Krahn's here. How are you?
You know what? I'm great. I skated at noon today.
Yes. As a goalie?
I got nothing to offer.
Nothing to offer.
As a forward.
Okay.
I can't skate.
Right.
I can't do a left crossover. I was at the office this morning, and there was a coworker of mine. His kids are in, development camps and spring hockey, and he's asking me, hey, Krahn, you got any, power instructors? It's hard to find the right guy. There's so many people out there. And I said, listen, I can't even do a left crossover. So I'm not going to guide your young child
on their journey.
Right. But no, I'm feeling great. I'm happy to be here. And you know what, speaking of which, you said that you did give me my start. I used to come in the summertime once and sit in an afternoon, and we'd have a great time in that old studio way back in the Northeast. And I was just telling the boys in the back, it was funny. I remember I was I think I was injured again at training camp with the Flames. Daryl was coaching. This is, I think, probably 06 or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was pretty down the dumps, and you were there. You were listening, and I said, you know what, Rob? I said, what would it what does it take to get into media post career? And I remember it was the worst timed conversation because I was really curious. But Daryl just walked around the corners. I was like, so once hockey's done, I'd like to get into the media at some point. And he gave me the largest horse eye that I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh, and I wanted to say something like, no, I don't mean it right now. But I just I swallowed and I gulped, and I was like, right, back to the minors for me.
I can't remember the number of times I would have called you in Lowell, Quad City.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The number of times we'd have conversations, because we were all of the opinion, well, it's, here comes Brent. Right?
Only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
You would be an all-star in the American Hockey League, and, you'd be player of the week and all. Well, Kipper's here.
Yeah.
But here, right? Here's the heir apparent.
Yes. You know what? I remember even having a conversation, my first actually legit call up, not in Dallas. It was my first kind of really big.
You were never called up in.
I was, but it was, Roman Turk had a concussion, and training camp had just ended.
Yeah.
And so they called me up, and then one time I think Turk was still battling with his concussion, and Jamie McLennan had a cracked sternum.
That's correct.
Right?
Yep.
And they called me up.
When Kipper was hurt too.
Kipper, yeah, he had a knee, like the
both
ACL.
Turk and Kipper, because wasn't Sabarin up?
Yes, he was. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly what happened to him, why he wasn't called up, or maybe they just, nobody was going to play, so we'll just get Sabby back in the American League. I think I was in the East. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But I remember getting called up, and I was so excited because I'm like, you know what? Everybody's dying up here. I'm going to get
It's only a matter of time.
And I remember Noodles coming to me, and he's like, I may not make it through the whole game. So like, I have a broken chest. Like, my sternum is fractured, and
which is a completely true story.
Yes, 1,000,000%. And you know how much guys love playing with Noodles, as far as he's like the iconic backup goaltender ever.
Right.
Person, player. And I felt bad saying, I hope that he can't, because I just want a chance. And he got a shutout. We played the Oilers, and we won 1-0 with a cracked sternum. And I'm like, if my chance isn't now, I don't know ever if it will ever come. This man is a half a human being, and he's still getting played over me, which turns out to be the right choice. You can't argue. But
no. Well, that was craziness.
Yeah,
because then he gets punted.
Yeah, gone like that.
Thanks for coming. Oh, you're the Rangers now.
Yeah,
and that was the second coming of Roman Turek.
Yes.
Because everybody had ridden Roman Turek off, and then Kipper came back, and all I remember is Roman would get the odd start, and he'd win.
Yes, and he loved it too.
Oh, sure he did.
Like he loved it. I remember him. So they traded Jamie McLennan and Blair Betts to New York for Chris Simon.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And so
player Betts. Holy cow.
Right. Betsy
Yeah.
was awesome. Like,
absolutely.
I love that guy.
Yeah,
he blocking shots, penalty kill specialist, like did absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And then when Kip came and just kind of took the whole net over, and Roman was he was just so relaxed and easy going. He took a pay cut too. They restructured his deal. He's like, yeah, sure.
He's happy.
Yeah. And then he'd go in, he'd play 1 every 8, and he'd play great. And it was just that dynamic was unbelievable because Kip played every game and Roman come in for comedic relief and play great.
Do you remember the towel?
The
towel? Roman Turk's towel with the sun on it. He had, because everybody's issued a team towel.
Yeah.
Except Roman Turk. He had his favorite beach towel with the big sun on it. And it was hanging in his stall, and he put it around and it was just like,
that is awesome.
Oh yeah. No.
I remember that there being something with the towel, but I don't remember what. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
He was I remember talking to him in the summertime too. Not talking to summertime. We get to training camp. And he'd be like, hey, Krahn, how was your summer? I go, oh, good. Large, how was yours? Oh, good. He goes, did you work out? I said, yeah, no, I was with Rich Hesketh this summer, putting me through the paces. I broke his bike pedals. I think we were doing some kind of training with Rich, and I was a little bit heavier set, so he was bagging me pretty good, and I ended up breaking his bike. So, long story short, we're kind of going through the whole rigmarole. I'm like, so what did you do for the summer? Like, what did you do? And he's like, I walked my dog for 45 minutes on Mondays. I'm like, I couldn't. I was hoping. I thought he was joking, right? I was just like, great. That's ha ha ha. That's so funny. And then just kind of left it open ended and walked away. And I'm like, he seems like a guy that probably could walk his dog for 45 minutes and call it a day.
So what was Kipper's off season? Like cutting down to 1 pack of smokes?
Yeah.
Just before camp or something?
Fishing.
He was fishing.
Switching to light beer.
Yeah. Light beer and half a pack of smokes a week before camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, he was, you'd see him and you could never tell he was a professional athlete. You'd see him walking around. He kind of had a little slight upper body with a little miniature, kind of skinny fat, the old, the boiler on him, skinny little legs. And then he'd get out there and he was the best athlete on the ice. And I thought that was quite remarkable. I thought that there's hope for me yet.
Yeah, it still is. For both of us. Exactly. I don't know why you're limiting it to just you.
Right.
I think both of us have, based on the Mika Kiprusoff workout regimen.
Yeah.
Right. Now, having said that, in fairness to him, there's legendary stories about his stretching.
Oh, that was kind of going through my mind.
Yeah.
As I said that, the guy was the routine that he would have before games was just, and the things that he could do. And man, I have flexible. Well, this is kind of probably too much information. My groins are super flexible, and my joints, my knees, my shoulder, they've all been super flexible to the point where they would dislocate. Like I've been a naturally flexible person.
Yeah.
But what I was always blown away by with Kiprusoff was his hips. It was like he could just spin his legs out. I could never do that. You see the goalies now where, even a guy like Markstrom, they can go in the butterfly, their left skate is against the post and their right skate's against the post, and it's just completely flush.
Right.
I could never do that.
No.
My hips would never flare out like that. And I saw Kip do it. I'm like, how do you do that? I would try to get some type of flexibility, and I wouldn't even come close to that. I would talk to trainers like, hey, how do I do that? And like, if you can either do it or you can't. You can get a little bit more here or there, but you're not doing that.
We just had Peter Marr on. We believe it's 19 years ago today, Game 7 against Vancouver in the run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. I got called up for that too.
Because you were the Black Ace.
Black Ace. And it was so funny because I remember we were in San Antonio. I was playing, I got loaned out to Florida.
Yeah.
Rick Dudley was the GM.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Sutter was the one of the scouts or whatever, player personnel guys for the Panthers. And I remember after the game in San Antonio, I'd never met Dwayne Sutter before, and he comes up to me and he punches me in the stomach. Not like that's ever happened before, I can imagine.
From a Sutter.
Yeah, right. Shocking. Completely blew me away. And he's like, oh, it's the first save you made all day. And I'm like,
from a Sutter.
Right. I'm like, who are you? What's going on here? And he's like, hey, pack your stuff up. You're going up to the big team, and you're going to be the Black Ace for the Flames for the playoff run. And I'm like, because they were already, I think they had just finished game 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So then I literally had to pack all my belongings, fly from San Antonio to Las Vegas because that's where I had the rest of my stuff, and that's where my vehicle was because I was playing on the East Coast.
Right. For the Wranglers.
For Wranglers, yeah, that's absolutely. Right. So I pack all my stuff up, and then I hop in my truck, and then I drive up to Calgary.
Was Glenn Gulletson the coach?
Of the Wranglers, yes. Yeah. That was his first coaching gig. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird.
It's nostalgia. Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I get into Calgary for game. I want to say, actually, I think it was game 6.
Yeah, the greatest loss in the history of the Calgary Flames.
Right, but game 6 of the first round against.
No, that's the greatest loss. Remember, they were down 4-1.
Oh yes,
and they came back. Yes. BMO scored in triple overtime.
You're right.
Vancouver.
Yes, you're 100% right. I remember I just got in at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and my fiance, well, it's obviously my wife now, but I hopped in the truck. They got us 2 tickets. I wasn't even in the press box. I was just like, so we go sit in the stands. We watch the game. And then the next day and then I'm not even on the team flight the next day. They got me a flight, like a regular commercial flight
so
to
you
Vancouver.
Didn't get to fly in the charter to Vancouver?
I check into the Westin Hotel downtown, and I get in like super late.
Yeah. And
the team had already kind of, I don't know, I just grabbed my card and I said, hey, any chance you know who my roommate is? Like, oh yeah, it's Chris Simon. I'm like, oh. Whoa, this is like, I was so jacked, but I'm like, okay, well, this should be interesting. So I go check into my room and it's perfectly clean. There's nothing in there. There's no luggage. There's no nothing. And I'm exhausted. It's 2.5, 3 days of travel. It's just been a kind of a whirlwind. And all I want to do is sleep.
Sure.
And it's 11 o'clock and I'm sitting in a chair because I'm too afraid to choose a bed. It's like, which one does,
because it'll be the wrong one.
Right, for sure, right? It's veteran, okay, so he gets first pick. You just take the scraps.
Yeah.
So I'm literally sitting in those uncomfortable hotel chairs. I got TV on and I'm like nodding off and I'm just, and I'm like, finally I was so out of it. I'm like, I don't care if he comes in here and beats the wheels off of me. I got to go to bed. So I hop in bed, shut her down, and I wake up in the morning. There's nothing, like nothing.
It's your own room.
It's my own room. Like, what is going on? Because pregame skate was that morning for game 7.
Sure.
So I get up and have breakfast with, I think Brennan Evans was there and Lynn Loins and Commodore and Martin Sonnenberg and just going down memory lane.
The heroes of 04, right?
Yeah. Montador, Commodore. We were all kind of in that Black Ace category, right? And then I'm sitting down at breakfast and this giant bear's paw just comes from behind and grabs me on my right shoulder and just crushes my right shoulder. And I turn around and it's Chris Simon. I stand up like, Mr. Simon, hey, Brent Krahn, nice to meet you. I apologize. I didn't know which room to take. And he starts laughing. He goes, I know you had a long day of travel. He goes, I don't sleep well at night. So I just told the lady at the front desk to get you your own room so you can catch up on some rest.
He did that for you.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? I was terrified. I was, just basically crapping myself because I'm like, this guy's playing. I'm screwing up with his routine. He doesn't want to room with a third string goaltender.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he would pick me up for practices and he'd take me to the airplane, all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
It blew me away. It was just the coolest thing ever. It was awesome.
So what do you remember of game 7 in Vancouver? Where were you? Were you upstairs?
So, no, I wasn't upstairs. I was in the dressing room, watched it the whole time. Okay. And I remember Gus Thorson, the trainer, I think it was 2-1 for Calgary, a few minutes remaining.
Yeah.
So him and Les Jarvis were pulling out all the bags.
Yep.
Right. So the game's over, guys. They're not going to score. Game's over. So we're putting all the bags in front, pulling them out, all of us. And then Vancouver scored with like
6 seconds.
Yeah. And everybody's like, and just freaking out. We got to get these bags back in here. So like all of us full on board,
sprint,
grabbing the bags, jamming them in the stalls, and then basically hiding in the hallway to get out of the dressing room. Right.
Wow. And
that's all I really remember. I don't remember Jelena scoring. Actually, no, that's not true. I do remember him scoring on Ald when Ald was kind of in the pad stack. And then I remember that, but I saw it on TV. I wasn't actually in the press box looking down. I saw it like everybody else did in the dressing room. It's crazy.
It was, and I don't know how much you remember about Vancouver, but that was Kluche gets hurt.
Yep.
Ald, Johan Hedberg.
Yep.
Was in it. And that was the one to this day, it was the craziness of the Vancouver media. Oh, Johan Hedberg's changing the series. He handles the puck.
Yeah.
He's going to change the whole complexion of the series. They blew his freaking doors off. He was one and done.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
and then they turned Alex Ald.
And Ald wasn't that bad. He actually
he wasn't that bad. He didn't cost them.
No.
That team should have scored.
Absolutely.
But Kippersoft was the difference. Right?
And then they had Naslund and Bertuzzi and Matthias Oland, and they had, I think Jovanovski was there.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
The Sedin.
Yeah. The Sedins were secondary at that point.
Yeah, they were.
That was still the West Coast Express, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Bimo and Bertuzzi was suspended, but Naslund and that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. And that was kind of the start of it. And it was just a whirlwind, and then started practicing with the team, obviously, and doing a bunch of other things and whatever. And that year, for being a Black Ace, though, too, was you were actually kind of incorporated on the team. Like I was on the ice while players were practicing, right?
Yeah.
So Kipper would kind of take what he needed, and then it was headshots for Krahn, and guys would lick their chops, and Dion Phaneuf and Oleg Saprik, and like, let's practice one-timers from the the face-off dot, and it's like just cracking off my mask and shoulder. And I remember, I think Elliot Friedman was still just getting his feet wet at CBC, and I had a white goalie mask, and I had played on, I started in Vegas, then I went to Lowell in the American League, then back to Vegas, and back to Lowell, then back to Vegas, then loaned out to Florida, and ended up in San Antonio. So I remember getting to the team that year, and then they were saying, you don't get any colors because you got the Wranglers colors, you got Lowell, who's like purple and red, and then you got the Flames. So it was white and black equipment, and then the white helmet, and that was it. And I remember Elliot, I don't know if he even put it on air, but they were taking shots of all my equipment, like just basically the journeyman goaltender that's just played on try to play in every team in every league this season.
Yeah. No, it's for me, I don't know about for you, but there's stuff that happens after that, years after that feels further away. For whatever reason, that 03-04 run, it just still feels like yesterday in so many cases.
It's crazy. I remember getting pulled over just outside of Moose Jaw or Regina on the way to Calgary, and the cop pulled me over, and I was trying to be, Bobby Bigwee. I'm like, don't give me a ticket. And I was just, hey, like, playing hockey. Daryl Sutter called me and said, I gotta. Yeah. So, you can give me the ticket. It's fine, but you're going to have to answer to somebody. Right? And he just looked at me like, you're an idiot, and just get out of my province and carry on.
Well, the one thing I do remember about you was, and like, I can't imagine it would ever happen today. Maybe I'm wrong, but was the reception downtown after Game 7, right? You guys went in City Hall and you came out wearing white hats, and like there was 25,000 people.
It's crazy.
It was insane.
It was unbelievable.
And you were just soaking it all in, right?
Well, and I was there, and then they had to introduce me too.
Yeah.
And it was like, yay.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know exactly what you're talking about, because it was Beasley and Peter Marr.
Yeah.
I introduced them, and they came out and they were introducing everybody. And Kipper and Aginla and Conroy, and Brent Krahn,
and he plays hockey too. It's
swear to God he does. Swear to God he's on this team.
I'm like, don't, like, what? I can sit in the stands here too, but it was crazy. The city was electric. It was unbelievable.
And you can understand. Like, I don't want to make an inappropriate. But you understand why you chase that high, right? Like, you want to go back to, and that's why, for the first couple years afterwards, it's like, the Red Mile start. Yeah. And it was almost like they got the Red Mile ahead of everything.
For sure.
Right?
Because it was chaos. It was mayhem. It was excitement. It was passion. It was, the town had been dry for so long that in terms of hockey, that this is the excuse everybody needs to just let loose and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really been, now subsequently, everybody kind of hopes and has their fingers crossed for another run like that, just to keep the city going. Right. And
you did back up in a playoff game, didn't you?
Yeah. Playing against Detroit.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, because that's when Jamie McLennan, once again, I think smashed his stick into
he chased him behind the net.
What was his name? Holmstrom. It was Holmstrom for Detroit.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the game, because we were actually in playoffs, like, playing against the Dallas Stars farm system, the Iowa Stars, and Mike Smith and Dan Ellis were the goalies for that team. It was me and Curtis McElhinney.
Yeah.
And so I think we had played Friday, Saturday in Omaha, and then we were going to play Monday, Tuesday in Iowa.
Yeah.
And I remember getting called up like that after that game Saturday, like, hey, you're on a bird tomorrow. You're going to back up, because McElhinney was starting the playoffs because he had a really good year.
Yeah.
And then I flew up and I backed up. I landed at like 3:30, went to the house, said hi to everybody, and then straight to the rink, and just tried to stay out of everybody's way, because that was game 6.
Yeah, right. And it went to overtime.
Yeah.
Moss hit a crossbar and they win it.
Yeah, and Hasek was playing goal for Detroit. I remember that.
Yeah. Calgary held serve at home, right?
Yes.
They came back and they won game 3 and 4, went back to Detroit. Kipper gets pulled, comes back, overtime. The rest, they say, is history. All I remember about you in that one was there was a shot of you, they panned to you, and you had the biggest smile on your face, right? Like, it's game 6.
I was trying not to, too.
And you're smiling. But, and I every time I introduce him, I don't get to introduce him that much anymore, but every time I introduce him, still suspended, Jamie McLean.
Yeah.
He has not
right?
served that suspension fully.
He's not recovered from that suspension, or the league certainly hasn't, for sure, right?
No.
Because he's done, and
he retired after that, and then still with games to go.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
So, well, he wanted out, right? Like
he found his way.
He found his way.
Yeah, I'm going to take my stick to Holmstrom's face right now, because Holmstrom was exhausting in front of the net.
He was a beast.
He was unbelievable, and you can't do that stuff now. You really can't. But the amount of mental fortitude it would take for any goaltender to play in front of that maniac, like, you just want to drill him. You know, that's why you wish Billy Smith would still be around for stuff like that, or Ronnie Hextall, or even Cloutier to a certain degree, guys that would Tim Thomas, that would just lose their mind. You know, it took a different level. You go back and you watch those 90s, you know, Detroit versus Dallas, or Dallas for, you know, and Belfour and Osgood and Vernon, and literally guys are falling on you. You're getting punched in the face. You're looking around. It's heavy.
It's heavy. That's a great way of putting it. It was just heavy net presence.
Yes.
Right. That it's comical now. And then again, it's just the way the game's developed, but it's comical when announcers lose their mind about traffic in front of goalies now, because it's nowhere near what it was. I mean, he sat in your lap.
Yes.
He sat in your lap.
And that is why they had they tried to have the crease rule, where you couldn't stick any part of your body in there, because goalies are getting run over. You're basically playing with your butt touching the back of the net, because guys are spearing you and pushing.
Brett Warner in Buffalo on line one. They'd like to have a word about this, right?
Yeah. Oh man,
right?
Yeah, I agree.
And then it was an overreaction to that.
Agreed. But just the amount of traffic you had to fight through, and all it was power play. You'd kind of run it low, and you have them collapse. You pass it back to the point. There'd be 900 people in front of the net, and you wired as hard as you could, and then you'd fight for it in the middle of the net all the time. And it was just guys with black eyes and missing. That's where all the broken noses and missing teeth and everything came from.
Well, I going back to 2004, I remember ESPN shot the whole final in HD from the glass, and that became a special. And if you go back and you watch that series where it's all shot, it's a rodeo out there. Like Rhett Warner literally riding guys on their back all the way down, the hooking, the, Ferentz with sticks between, your leg.
The jackknife.
Oh my God.
Guys coming on a breakaway, and they got the stick. It's just pushing his elbow out and hooking them, and like going water skiing through the neutral zone.
And now I see sticks in a hand and the guy blows up, and it's like, oh my God, is that a major?
Yeah. I know.
It's only 20 years ago, folks.
It's crazy. Right? I still we'll play. They had some, I think it was on TS. I remember what station is irrelevant, but they had a little documentary series on the 5 most recent goaltenders that were inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And it was, Grant Fuhr, Eddie Belfour, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, and I'm obviously Dominic Hasek. And my kids were watching. They were just, this is awesome. This is what hockey
could be.
Could, right? It's just hard hitting, fast paced, skill on display. It gives me shivers talking about it.
Can you imagine Maltby and Draper and McCarty against Lemieux in Colorado nowadays?
Man.
I mean, we'd have to shut the whole league down and have an investigation.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
That.
Well, my first year, I was 16 and I called up to the Hitman. That's still when they'd had the separate warm-ups in the Western Hockey League. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the visiting team would go on for 20 minutes, full ice.
Yeah.
And then they flood, and then the home team would go on the ice for 20 minutes. They'd flood, and then the game would start, because everybody is trying to beat the absolute wheels off of each other.
Right.
And
it's true.
Right.
It's true.
Yep. And it's to be able to watch that, and Claude Lemieux for all the cheap shots, and you had to keep your head on a swivel, because he wasn't hitting you because he wanted to take you out of the play. He was hitting you to eliminate you from the series. Right.
He really was. And again, I'm not saying it's I'm not fawning for those days, but it's just interesting to see how far the game has come, right? And the 100%. Things that we get fired up about now. Look, I'm not talking about the Pavelski hit. That's a different story, but there's some things within the regular season that you kind of go, really? We're upset about this.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And it's funny. I was talking to the guys in the back too before I came on. It's like,
they're so much more exciting than me, aren't they? That should be the show. You going over there and talking to them, that should be the podcast.
And that room looks terrible though. Like, they got
that's where I was in there for a while.
Yeah, like that. There's no oxygen in there. It's musty and it's small and it's hot. And those lights are warm and it's got egg crate on the wall, and
that's
just sad in there.
Baffling. That's not egg crate. That's baffling to break the sound up. I like it. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
And they're good dudes.
They're great.
They're great dudes.
I'm getting to know them better. But we were chatting about, I watch hockey now for guys that I cheer against. You know what I mean? Like if I don't,
you want the villain.
Yes, no, I don't want them to be around. You know what I mean? It's like I'm cheering against them. Like the Leafs, I'm watching that series because I don't want the Leafs to make it past the first round.
Right. You want to watch the villain.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And then once they're gone, it's like, well,
I'm not interested.
No, I'm not interested because I actually like both these teams, and it's okay, right?
Good things can happen to you,
right? You know, and I'm not as emotionally invested. But when I'm actually have a vest, like I used to play hockey against this guy, and he's playing the National Hockey League. I'd be jealous. I'm like, this guy is going to do great. I want him to fail. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm a little concerned that maybe we've gotten to a place that you might actually need some help with. That I might not be capable of guiding you through this conversation.
The amount of help that I would need, I would believe, is not going to be handled in this this segment.
All right.
Rob. Yeah.
Speaking of help, I need help from two different topics from you, but it's a choose your own adventure here on Just a Game. General manager search or Wolf?
Oh, I want to do both.
I know, we will get to both.
Okay.
I'm just asking which one do you want to talk about?
Wolf.
Okay. So Dustin Wolf, second year in a row, AHL goalie of the year. 4 years in a row, he's his goalie of the year in his league. Last two in the Western, first two in the American Hockey League. He's 22 now, but just by a week or so. Is he ready? What do we do here, Krahn? What do we do with this kid?
I had no idea he was 22. I saw on Twitter, it's like happy 22nd birthday,
right?
Dustin. I'm like, what? I went to a couple games, Wranglers games this season.
Yeah. And you worked with Sandra.
Sandra, yeah, she was great.
She's awesome.
And I'm sitting there like, this guy he's just so smooth. He's so, you think, as being like, I played with a lot of little goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Bachman comes to mind in Dallas, where I was always impressed by him and his patience, his ability to read the play for not the lack of size, because you're still a bigger guy, but compared to a lot of others, right? You're smaller. How they could read the play, And I see Dustin Wolf, and I'm like, he's there everywhere. He's just there. He's calm. That game at the end of the season against San Jose, I'm so happy they gave it to him. Like,
okay, but what value does that game have?
Zero.
Okay.
It has zero value aside from him saying I played a game in the National Hockey League.
That's all it is, though.
It's more for him than anything else, right? 1,000,000%.
Okay.
But this, because is he under contract for another? He's got to be under contract for another season.
Yeah,
right?
he's got. Yeah, they got control.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's 2 years into his pro contract, so he's got one more on his entry level.
Right. And it's a good problem to have.
It's a very good problem to have.
I know. 2 years in a row, American Hockey League goaltender of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's done with the American Hockey League. If he goes and has any type of playoff run whatsoever, you're wasting his talents playing in the Western or in the American Hockey League.
Okay,
1,000,000%.
Okay,
even though that he's that young.
Okay,
I would make room
because
for him.
You could make a case that your path was to eventually back up Mika Kippersoff, and we can get into the whole Phil Sauvé conversation. But that once you got to that was it. The tap's getting turned off, right?
Yep.
Like, dude has more wins than most goalies have starts in that league.
It's crazy.
Can he go from being that minute muncher to backing up Markstrom? And now Markstrom's not Kippersoff. I grant you that. And he's not coming off a great year, and we'll get to that in a second. But he's also $6 million. So at least at the beginning, you think he's going to get the bulk of the work.
For sure. But now he's going to be the next part of his career where you're not just going to phase him into being a number one goaltender in the National Hockey League. You're going to start with Markstrom. If he falters again like he did last year, you're going to have more confidence to put Wolf in, and you're going to have to let him falter a little bit too, because he may not come, him being kind of an underdog his whole career, a late draft pick, coming in and working his way up and being as phenomenal as he is. There's always pressure. But you're starting kind of at the bottom of the mountain, and you're starting to work your way up.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas there's a lot of guys that come in, and I'm on the opposite trend where I came in as a top draft pick and I essentially worked my way down. You know what I mean? Like, things just didn't go according to plan. And that's not me playing a small violin here. It's two different perspectives from right.
Right. No, we could get into a whole conversation about what the pressure of being a first round pick is.
Right.
Ask Eric Nystrom, ask Brent Krahn, because you guys went through it. Right.
And so you see,
and it's real.
100% it is. But because he's done so well in a short amount of time, you're almost waiting for him to have a bit of an obstacle, right? And the consistency is the main thing that they look for in goaltenders. Can we count? Like, look at UC Saros.
Yes.
Right? Little guy.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, he's a little guy. And they have to prove every night that they're worth it. And Dustin Wolf has proved every night that he's worth it. And I think that at the start of next season, you make room for him, whatever that looks like.
Well, be moving Vladar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You make room for him, and you the way that they've stuck with Markstrom of last year. I mean, I know that's contractually the big money. He's your number one guy. He falters off the gate. You give Dustin Wolf a bit of time to work his way through it. I honestly think right now you got to keep him moving, because if you keep him back in the American League,
yes,
you're mentally you're going to
what can happen there? Let's say they keep Vladar and they keep Markstrom and they put him back and he's going to play a bunch. What could happen with that?
Mentally, you just become very frustrated, and you sit there and like, well, I've kind of done everything I can at this league, and you're still putting me back here. I want to be in the big club. I want to be in the big show, and you start to negative self-talk your way a little bit, or your performance could suffer because you don't want to be there. I don't want to be in the American Hockey League. I've done it. I've done it all. Why am I not in the National Hockey League? And there's a multitude of reasons for that, like contractually, for example, right? They got starters, but mentally you can really get yourself into a bad spot. There's been plenty of players, not even just in the goaltending position.
Oh, I was going to say Matty Phillips is in the exact same.
But they're just like, what else do I have to do to get an opportunity, right? Yep. What else? Trade me then. Get rid of me. Trade me. Oh, we're not going to trade. You're too good. Yeah. Or we're going to sit here and let you rot. And then we go, they'll come down and say, well, you got to be mentally tough. This is the rigors of playing professional sports. There's ups and downs. But
by the way, this isn't Brent making something up. This is real.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000,000%. Yes. Right. And it's like, that's the thing. You compare yourself to your peers, right? You're competitive. I remember being in Omaha and having Tom Webster come down. Remember old Webby?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome guy.
Absolutely.
And I remember him sitting on the bench with me, and we were chatting about goaltenders. He was kind of, Pekka Rinne was playing in the league, and Corey Crawford, and Ryan Miller was in Rochester. And he just, what do we got to do to kind of get you to that next level, that Ryan Miller level, that Pekka Rinne, whatever, right? Yeah. And in jest, because Webby was awesome, I said, well, trade Kipper, and then I can go and play and figure it out. And he laughed at me really hard, and then he said, no, really. and for my mindset, not worried, but I focused too much on what others were doing. I played with Cam Ward in the lockout year.
Yep.
Right. And so everybody in the lockout year, 05 or whatever it was, some great teams, like Patrice Bergeron's playing in Providence, right? Mike Camilleri's in Manchester, and Jeff Carter, and anyway, it doesn't matter. But all these guys, it was a great league. And Cam Ward had an unbelievable, he played 50 games. I played 35. Yep. Great season. The next year, he just goes straight to Carolina. They had Martin Gerber and him. Yep. That was the way it was from the end of the season. This is what we're doing, right? And he had his ups and downs through that season. And then Gerber got sick in the first round, and Cam went in and was lights out and never let go.
Never let go.
Right?
Yeah. And
I always thought that from my perspective, I was like, well, that's awesome that he got his opportunity and he ran with it. You like to see guys that get in and get their opportunity. But Kipper was too damn good and too healthy. So every training camp that I would have, no matter how good I would play, we're not going to have you on the bench to play 8 games. And that's when Kipper he was playing 72 games, I think, or 70 games, right?
He was
75 games, right? So he's like, Daryl would have it, and I can't say I disagree with him. He'd say, like, we're not going to have you just sit here and waste away on the bench. And in my mind, I'm like, let me waste away on the bench. I want to be in the national. But bird's eye view, it makes more sense for your guy to be playing, because he says, if he does go down, we're going to call, you or Curtis McElhinney up, and you're going to play.
Right. You're like, if he ever gets hurt.
Right.
Which he didn't.
For 7 years. For 7 years.
Yeah. Got hurt.
So you got a guy like Wolf he's just blown the doors off of everything that he's done. And we see this last 4 years, like, wow, he's obviously gone through a lot to get here, right? We don't see that. We just see that we're getting the benefit of how good he is. But you send him back again, it's like, well, and then what do they say? Oh, go out and win the Calder Cup. Then then you can come back and talk to us, right? It's like, well, how much stuff are you going to be putting in front of me before you actually give me a chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And eventually after that, well, I would, no matter what I do, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
So let me just play out my career here. Your play starts to dwindle. You don't give a shit. Right. And then all of a sudden, okay, well, and then you get a chance someplace else.
By the way, no, the goalie's brother Ty doesn't like it when we swear.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good. That's
just saying, Ty and Noah.
You know what?
Yeah.
And he's competitor out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
And I don't want to have to face that music.
No,
I'm sorry, Ty. I'm sorry, Ty.
Point that out, Ty.
My bad.
Your back, buddy.
My bad.
We got your back.
My bad. I was getting a little heated there. Don't come track me down. Scares me, you know?
Oh, it should.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave Wolf because I think you've said it. I think we're all in the same boat. Kids got to play. Now, separate him, Markstrom, Vladar. How do you go from Jennings-esque to bottom of the barrel in 1 year with Daryl Sutter as your coach and his frame of reference on how the game is played?
I think Markstrom had a lot to prove last season.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come in with a mentality that you have a lot to prove, you are ready to play every night. And this season, he came in off one of the best years of his career, if not the best.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
How do you maintain that? Right?
How do you keep that level?
How do you keep that level? Because you know what? I know if I'm playing Mario Kart with my kids and I'm in second place and I got my eye on first place, I know exactly where I have to go every time to pass that person.
Yeah.
But now when I'm leading that group,
mm-hmm.
how do I stay there? Because there's always people nipping at your heels.
Well, that would be the Turtles.
Exactly. The Koopas, the Troopas, whatever they're called, right?
Right.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely. We just
this is why we bring you on for these analogies that everybody can fully understand.
Right. And so you sit there and being a starting goaltender is a mentality. It's a mentality, right? So I would marvel at guys that could play every game. Like, I'm going back, but like Shane Bandera that played in Red Deer Rebels.
Yeah, absolutely.
There were 72 games that we played in that season. Shane would play 68 every year. Brent Sutter would throw him back out there, and he would go out there, and he wasn't always the best, but he was always good enough.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so, like Henrik Lundqvist, he could play a ton of games, right? You got a guy like Luongo, he could play a ton of games. Vasilevsky is probably the best example right now of a goaltender that can play a boatload of games. Yep. And be at his right.
Yep.
And so that mentality, not everybody's got that mentality. Jonathan Quick too, in his prime, right? He could play a million games. And he played for Daryl. I don't think Markstrom has that mentality yet. And I think this season is a bit of a kick in the butt for him just to be that guy, right? I think I would have liked to have seen the Flames give Vladar a bit more opportunity when he was playing as well as he was, and Markstrom was tripping over himself.
We forget that sometimes. The Vladar was setting a record there at one point, right? For points.
100% he was. He tied the record, right?
Yep.
Right. And so I wouldn't, easy to say now, but I've said this throughout the whole season. I would have given Vladar, even if he played bad, he back to back, second game you play bad, you're going back in for the third game. Let Markstrom push for that starting job again. I think because that's another way to motivate guys. It sucks, but you don't want to lose your starting job.
Yeah.
And so, I also can appreciate what Daryl did, trying to help him fight through it, because you know what? Once you start playing every game in a row, they all become one game. Like for me, Ryan McGill did that for me in Omaha, where, because me and Curtis McElhinney my first year, and, I'd play 2 or 3, Mac would play 1 or 2, 2 or 3, blah, 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 blah. And I wasn't good for the first, half of the season. I was inconsistent. I played some good games, some bad games. McElhinney was consistent. And then Ryan McGill came to me and says, you know what? You are going to play the next 20 games in a row. And I think I played 19 of 22.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm like, well, I need a break. Like, I'm not doing good. Like, I need to reset. I need to refocus. And it was just, you're in. He says, you're in until I tell you you're not. So you're playing every game, just so you know. And by about game 12, I was like, oh, I remember getting a goalie of the month that month. I on the tail end of all those games in a row. And the team was playing great too. But I all of a sudden I got comfortable with the mentality. It's like, I'm going in every, as opposed to looking at the board. Oh, who's starting tonight?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a mentality, and not every great goaltender has a starter's mentality, even though they have the starter's skill set.
Yeah.
And Markstrom doesn't have the starter's mindset yet. He's got the skills, but he doesn't have the between the ears. And he not saying he can't get there, but I think that's what this season showed.
You mentioned Omaha and Ryan McGill. Can you tell me a story about a car ending up on the top of the building?
No, I don't know that one.
You don't know that one?
I don't know that one. Maybe, or I've forgotten, but I don't know that one.
I thought you were the one that told me that.
No. Maybe
because McGill's a prankster.
Yes, he is. But right? I don't remember any of that.
Maybe he was after you.
You could have been Quad City, or was it Omaha?
Oh, I thought it was Omaha, but
because I was there for the 2 years in Omaha. I don't remember.
So, folks, we don't know this story, but there's a really good one about a car ending up on the top of the arena. All right. News of the week. Brad Treliving walks away.
Yeah.
We had Peter Maher on before. It's never happened with the Flames before. They wanted him. They offered him. Pete said they offered him 2 contracts. There's a lot that has been made about his relationship with Daryl. We know you played with Daryl. We know what Daryl is all about. What do you make of the situation the local hockey heroes find themselves in?
You know what? It's not surprised.
That's the part. Why is everybody in the last 24 hours going, this is surprising?
Well, because
it's surprising.
He's going to lose that battle, unfortunately. And
who's losing?
Brad.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you can just see it, right? So Daryl comes in, you got the ownership group, you got Murray Edwards at the head of that ownership group, right? He's a very successful person. All those guys at the top are super, super successful. They demand lots out of people. I've met a lot of super successful people. Not all of them have the best people skills on the planet. They demand a lot out of the person.
Sure.
And you don't make
They don't know why you can't do it like that.
Right.
It's why superstars aren't great coaches sometimes.
Agreed, right?
Yeah.
And then you got a guy like Daryl who's an excellent coach, who holds people accountable, who's hard on guys, makes people uncomfortable. And you see that from the top. And this is, once again, my opinion, folks, nothing more.
No, that's why.
And so you see those big wheels up top saying, that's the guy that I want running my team, because he's not letting those entitled $25 million guys run around like it's a country club, because I started from nothing and I built it to this. And that's exactly what these guys are going to do. So Daryl does that to them. But then when he kind of does that to the new age group, you get people feeling uncomfortable. You get people, you got to, and then that's not totally on Daryl, but you get Huberdeau's point drop. He's trying to figure out himself where he's going to go. Markstrom struggles this season. There's no captain on the team, which I
bristle at that. I really do.
And so Brad's a guy that is for I've actually got to know him, well over the years. And everybody right off the top of the bat says just what a quality human being that guy is, right?
Yeah.
So great guy.
Yep.
Awesome guy. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yep.
He is in a fight. I don't think he knew he couldn't win. As far as
you don't think he knew he couldn't win, or you think he figured out?
He figured out he couldn't win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to constantly have to battle to say, hey, you know what, we're calling these guys up, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it's just met with friction and frustration and and all that stuff. After a while, it's like, sure, you know what? Here are the keys. Take the car. I'll go find another car. Right. And that's just the way it goes. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yep.
I would have liked for him to stay. I think he's very well respected. People would go through the wall for that guy. But now here we are. So there's no point in saying coulda, woulda, shoulda. And like, I think he just knew he wasn't going to win that battle. And so he chose to move on.
A couple of things that I have said that, I'm able to sit here and look at this camera and talk to the people that are watching and say what I want, and I don't get a lot of pushback. So I'd like to offer a couple things to you to see if you disagree with me in the way I approach this. Daryl, and I just think Daryl doesn't understand that nowadays a coach has a responsibility to develop young players. I think when Daryl was in his prime winning, and it's not that long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I think you developed them in the minor leagues. They came up as finished products. I think the salary cap, the stagnant salary cap, all of those sort of things, I think it's forced coaches now. You have to do some development of young players at the NHL level. And he seemed very reluctant to do that. I can be proven wrong, completely proven wrong, but Matt Phillips will go to a different organization next year, and I expect he'll be an everyday NHL player.
Yes.
And for a team that missed the playoffs, the way they missed the playoffs, overtime, shootouts, 1 goal. A guy that's offensive should have found a home here, should have been played here. And I think if Daryl mea culpas and goes, hey, I'm going to have to adapt to that, no problem.
Yeah.
Cool. But I think that was the shortcoming this year, is just refused to develop the young guys at the NHL level.
And then you got a guy like Toffoli, who played his first season with Daryl in LA and won a cup, I believe, right? That's kind of how that worked. And
right. But didn't have the same role as he had this year with Daryl.
1,000,000%, right? It's like you got to earn your keep, you got to earn your way, and then we'll get to you when we're ready for you, not when you're ready for us.
Right.
And I don't disagree with you for a second. You have to. It sucks because you have to swallow your pride. You have to swallow your ego a little bit too. There's a lot of bravado and a lot of chest beating when it comes to, I guess, any industry that you're in. Pro sports is obviously at the top of that list. Where, hey, you hired me for a reason. You let me do it my way, or beat it. Right.
Yep.
And this is the way I've done it. And now I got, now I have 2 cups too. So how are you going to argue with me? I've did it before, and I'm going to do it again. And this is how I do things. So don't tell me what to do. But there are, like you said, salary cap, right? Like you got to find ways to make it work. You can't just do what you want, right? You can't, and Lucic playing all those minutes that he got this year. Why couldn't you put Phillips?
Because you get pushed around.
Right.
Because you get run out of the building.
Right. I don't think so. The game doesn't play. The game doesn't work like that anymore, right? You don't get run out of the building.
To me, it's the Richie part that, and again, I have nothing against these guys. Unfortunately,
it's not their fault.
No, it's not their fault. But there needed to be a way to play with a little more youth and a little more piss and vinegar.
Yes.
And be prepared to lose with it, but also be prepared to win with it.
Yes. And that you have the young guys come up, they're going to make mistakes, but they're going to have a ton of energy. And also, you know what? Hey, like, guys that have been around for a long time, it's a job. Like, after you've, played 14 years, 50, 10 years, 8 years in the National Hockey, doing something for so long, it's like, you're privileged, but you live it.
But it's all too.
Right.
It's all
It's a job, right?
That's
so
right.
You can run into somebody at a restaurant and say, oh, you're so lucky you play in the National Hockey. Yeah, you're right. It's afforded me a great lifestyle. I love sport. I love everything about it. But you do it every day. It's a job.
That's right.
So you have a kid that's like, I want to be here every day and I want to show you how hard I want. And also, like, it can help guys that have been around a long time too say, oh man, look at him out there. Like, he's loving it.
You don't think Pelche helped Huberto?
No kidding.
Right? We saw it.
No kidding.
But here we are. Your former teammate, Craig Conroy, number one on the top. And my position is not Craig. The question shouldn't be, is Craig Conroy right for the Calgary Flames? Is the Calgary Flames right for Craig Conroy? What else is he supposed to do?
I know.
He's 12 and a half years doing this.
Yeah.
He's done every part of what an assistant general manager can do. He's been part of world championships and I believe an Olympic program with Team USA. To me, he's qualified.
Well, he's qualified, but I wouldn't want to take the job if I was him here.
Why?
Because Daryl, I wouldn't want to play for him and then have to be his, not boss, but Daryl knows what he's going to be met with a ton of friction too, right off the bat. Right? Do you not think Craig,
I think, but I don't think this is what I think. If Craig Conroy takes this job, Craig Conroy's convinced he can work with Daryl.
Agreed. And maybe he can. And I'm not saying he can't, but I'm just,
no. I know
for what I would, if I was him,
I
would say, no, thanks. I'm going to go someplace else.
Yep.
Because I only know Craig as an awesome teammate, a great guy. He's got his opinions. He's a smart guy.
Very smart.
He's very intelligent. And I just know him as very affable, easygoing. Oh, sure. Hey, guy, and you talk with him and then you actually get serious and you talk with him. And the guy knows what he's doing.
I wouldn't use the word cutthroat, but he gets very serious.
100%.
And he could I believe he can make decisions. He's just waiting to make decisions.
Agreed. And almost like he's got a ton of enthusiasm and he, much like Wolf, deserves a shot at, he's paid his dues.
Oh, absolutely.
If we're going to go back and say, if you put your time in at every level to get this job, by that merit, Wolf should be on the team next year and Craig Conroy should be the GM here if he wants it.
I'm going to leave it there. I don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah.
What are you up to? You got anything to plug? You got any new movies? Got an album coming out?
You're good like this. You really help me out. And every time you say, can you plug somebody or anything you want to do? I'm like, my mind just goes.
Well, you got an event coming up, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that then?
For the Headwater Learning Center.
Yes.
Wow. It's like you wrote this down or something.
It's almost as if I know what I'm doing.
Wow. They approached me and asked if I could be the MC for
not the speaker.
No.
The MC, the host.
The MC.
The man of the hour.
And I put it up on my Twitter. I retweeted it, so you can go to the link. I'm so completely unprepared for any of this stuff here. And they said, "Hey, we want you to be the MC." And I'm like, "You understand? I've never done this before."
Right.
And then that's when I turned to you, my good buddy Rob Kerr, and I said, "What am I doing here?" And
you got all the tools.
And I'm jacked. I'm absolutely jacked.
When is it?
I want to say June 12th.
It's in your calendar, right?
I would hope so, but we don't have time.
Would you share it on social tonight for everybody?
I will absolutely do that. We
got a big audience today, so I'd like the audience to see it.
Yeah, I absolutely will. Okay. I'll retweet it again.
So we can do that.
The Headwater Learning Center, the charity golf tournament at the Glencoe that I am emceeing. Mm-hmm. I have absolutely zero information on it whatsoever, so I will post it tonight.
Hey, it's early, dude.
It is.
There's other things going on.
There is. And we did a photo shoot too. Like we did a bunch of they put a green screen behind me.
Oh no.
And I have
just the photos that the barn burner guys got of you.
Yes. Oh, those are terrible.
Is it that kind of photo shoot?
No, it was more of a video. Like I'm promoting stuff. I'm talking about things, right? And I had to bring my golf bag and pretend that I'm golfing in jeans, essentially.
Where were you when you had your golf club stolen?
Oh man!
Oh, that was the Team Canada alumni tournament.
No. That was
no, they didn't steal it there, but you had it stolen before that.
Yeah, well, I got my hole-in-one at the Calgary Flames golf tournament.
Yeah,
and then
that's right. It was September.
And then I had
because what did you win for that?
10 grand in season tickets.
10 grand and
season tickets to the Calgary Flames, and you know, it was all
you're
skill.
A season ticket holder. You should have your opinions heard.
Well, absolutely right. And you know what? And I've just missed the hole-in-one every year to renew them that I've missed out on. But I know what? It's so funny. It's actually a bad idea for me to have those tickets.
Yeah.
Because I give them away to everybody.
Right.
So I remember I gave it to my kids' auction for school for whatever for a game.
Yeah.
And then I gave them to a buddy and the same tickets
for the same game
to 6 different people.
So that could be a problem.
Right. So
was that a quick call to Tanya? I need help.
Yeah. Right away. Because
Yeah.
I gave it actually to one of my buddies, his son and his buddy too, right? And so he's like, hey, Krahn, the tickets don't work. I'm like, well, that never happens. You know what? Let me make one quick phone call. I'll get that sorted out for you. I apologize, guys. And then they're like, well, they've already been scammed. I'm like, it took me 2 days later to figure out that I had pooched that one pretty good. But with great power comes great responsibility, Rob.
Absolutely, it does. You'll also be appearing at the Masters annual Masters golf tournament.
Yeah,
aren't you?
Oh yeah, every year.
Flames alumni.
That is literally
May 25th.
May 25th. 25th.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I got a bit of a favor to ask you.
Anything you need.
The talking goalie was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Can't be there. The plan is right now. You think I know what I'm about to say, but I'm not.
Oh.
The plan right now is the legend, Noah the goalie, and Harrison the tender.
Oh man!
Right?
Yes.
That's the plan right now.
That is the plan.
That's the plan.
Yes.
Yes. So I need you to check in on him.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Okay.
That is great because they you know what? Not only did they blow the doors off me in the game there a couple weeks ago, now they're just stealing all the thunder.
They're stealing all the thunder.
Now
they're not emceeing anything yet.
Not yet. But that's coming.
That's coming.
I got to be careful here now, right? Because these guys, they're nipping at the heels
They
here
are
now.
nipping at your heels.
Oh boy,
Krahn, you're the best.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Brent Krahn, everybody.